So today we'll be talking about using proper academic and formal word phrase choices, right? And would actually be looking at, how to be cautious with choosing particular words when conducting a research or when writing an academic essay, right? And as we all know, right, in an academic setting, right, there is actually an expectation for the kinds of words you use in your essay. And basically, the kind of word you should use in your essay or the kinds of phrases you should use in your essays should be formal words or phrases. So in this session, we would actually be looking at, the importance of word choice in academic writing, and would also be looking at different aspects of, let me use the word choice errors, right? Or word choice mistakes, right? Or different kinds of word choices that do not fit an academic setting, right? So that's what we'll be looking at today. And again, like I said earlier, if you have questions, feel free to just stop me and ask, right? So now the next thing we'll be looking at is this. So what's the importance of word choice in academic writing, right? So word choice enables students and researchers to write clear, specific, applicable, and concise ideas. Therefore, every academic writer should aim toward writing or presenting their thoughts using terms and statements that apply to the formal context and subject matter of their work in a concise but meaningfully detailed manner, right? Students must understand that audiences are prone to assign unintended meanings to the ideas they read, right? So it's very important that we are conscious of the kinds of words we use in our research or academic essays, because readers are prone to assign unintended meanings to what they read, right? Not all readers will do that, right? But we have to just be cautious that some readers might actually say that you mean something that you didn't intend to mean, right? So, and again, the last part is this: audiences may suspect that the writer has hidden intentions and meanings when words and phrases are written in unspecific and informal language, right? So your audience, so when you write an essay or when you write a phrase that is so unspecific, I'm going to give us an example of that later, right? But when you write phrases or words that are vague or their meanings are unspecific, right? Your audience may actually think you have hidden intentions, right? Your audience might think you're giving them double meanings, right? Or you have some hidden bias, right? So now if you look at, so this is like just a simple case study, right? For instance, if I start an essay saying the need to respect people of other gender orientation and the things they represent. So they need to represent people of other gender orientation and the things they represent, right? So I just want you to raise your hands up if you think that sentence is clear. Exactly, it's not clear, right? So the question is, the first thing your audience might ask, or the first thing the reader might ask is, what do you mean by they? What do you mean by they there, right? Define they, right? So another word there that is unspecific is things. Your audience might ask, what do you mean by things, right? Give a more specific idea that defines things, right? So we would actually later in this session, we'll go deeper into how to avoid these kinds of unspecific phrases, right, in academic writing. So the major aim is this, right? The major aim for, using applicable word choices is that you're trying to always be specific, You want to be direct, you know. So the word they and thing in that sentence is unspecific and may lead the audience to ask, who are they, right? Which/what thing do they represent, right? Also, your audience may think, what is this writer hiding? Like, why are you writing unspecific words, right? What are you hiding, right? Does this writer have some unexposed biases, right? Now, the other thing is that since academic writing is majorly addressed to a scholarly audience, a knowledgeable audience may disagree with your exceptional and acceptable points and findings if your writing is in an informal style. Hence, presentation also matters, right? So you might actually have good points in your essay, right? You might write, outstanding findings, right? You might actually conduct, useful research. But if you present your research using informal words, your audience might just disapprove your whole essay just because you've written in informal word usage, right? So we just have to be careful there. And so just always try as much as possible to be conscious with your word choice. Now, the other parts we have to understand is this, right? So these are evaluation questions for appropriate word choice, right? These are questions you should ask yourself before applying a word or a phrase into your essay, right? So it says, does this word/phrase apply to the formal context of an academic environment? Right? As we all know, right? In an academic environment, you must use formal style of writing, right? So the second one is this: will this word/phrase help my audience to grasp my viewpoint manageably, fully, and clearly, right? The third one is this: does this word help avoid any misunderstanding of my authorial intentions, right? So basically, if your audience read your statements, would they directly understand your intentions, right? So the last one is this: can a scholar or authority in my field engage with my writing? Like I said earlier, you might have exceptional points in your essay, you might have exceptional findings in your essay or your research. But if you present that research in an informal style of writing, your essay might be, rejected by scholarly authorities, right? Do we have any questions so far? Yeah. All right. Sounds good. So now the next thing we want to look into is the 6 key areas of word choice revision. 6 key areas, right? First one is avoiding slangs or colloquialisms. Second one is avoiding vague words or qualifiers, right? Vague words or vague qualifiers. Third one is avoiding contractions. The fourth one is avoiding first-person voice, right? The fifth one is avoiding second-person voice. And the last one is avoiding negative sentences, right? These are the 6 key areas you have to look out for when applying, word choices. So the first one we look at is avoiding slangs or colloquialisms. So slangs are simply informal words used in a casual setting, right? However, using slangs in an academic setting simply closes the opportunity for a scholarly review of your research, right? So when you use informal language, like when you use informal language in your writing, it closes every opportunity for scholarly review, right? Using slangs would not allow your professor to accept your work. Let me just put it that way, right? You might have good points, like I said, you might have exceptional points, but when you write, when you apply slangs into your writing, right, your work will be deemed unacceptable, right? And a scholar may question a supposed scholarly text authority and integrity if slang is used, regardless of the presence of authority and integrity. So basically, like I said, you might have great points, but if you use slangs in your essay, the professor might reject your work, right? So there are one thing we also have to understand is this, right? There are 5 revision areas for slang usage, right? The first one is the typical informal expression. The second one is exaggeration. We have opinionated and subjective expressions, cliches, and filler words, right? So basically, I'm not telling you all these terms. You don't have to like cram these terms or try to memorize these terms. Please don't, all right? All I just want you all to know is I just want you all to understand how to revise these kinds of errors, these kinds of writing errors. That's the aim here. So you don't have to memorize the terms, right? So the first one, typical informal expressions, right? Since academic writing is strictly formal in presentations, some regularly used informal styles applied in blogs, emails, social media posts, and text messages may come across as unsophisticated, right? So here are some examples and their replacements. So the first one I have here is America. And I'm sure many of us we have all written the word America in our essays, like one time or the other, right? So basically, like writing the word America in your essay is deemed informal. Instead, you should write America in full, right? For instance, you should write the United States, the US, or you can have the USA, right? So looking at this, the study focused on America, right? So we have America right here, but then I canceled it, as you can see. So it should be the study focused on the United States, right? Not on America, all right? And then sometimes we always write this informal word as got to, right? For instance, if you look at this example here, it says, the senator said that the government has got to act, right? So instead of using has got to, you can use words like as or must, right? So has got to is a slang, so you should try to avoid that. So the senator said that the government must act, not the senator said that the government has got to act, right? So kids, right? For some of us who are into, again, like counseling, right? Most of us are studying to counsel kids. But then when you're writing an academic essay, you don't use the word kids. Kids is actually informal, right? You say children, right? So the children are hungry, not the kids are hungry. But then remember, this is just in an academic setting, right? If you're writing a text message, right? So you can use the word kids, right? But in an academic setting, use the word children. So now we have this kind of, sort of, right? So instead of using kind of, you can use the word somewhat, to some degree, in the category of, right? Instead of saying this, the scholar kind of agreed. Like just the same way we say words like this in, if we want to like shorten it, we always say words like kinda, right? Kinda did this, kinda did that, right? So sometimes we might find ourselves also using that same slang in our writing. So we must avoid that in an academic setting. So we should not use the word kind of or sort of, right? Use somewhat, to some degree, in the category of, right? For instance, the scholar somewhat agreed. It's not the scholar kind of agreed, right? Now, till, right? So instead of saying till, like T-I-L-L, we should say until, all right? So the class will run from October till December, right? It should be until, exactly, until December, right? And then we could have words like show. Now, this is a big one among students, right? For instance, when they're introducing an essay or they're introducing an analysis of a text, right? For instance, you might say this books, or we can say this research shows that low-income communities need more counselors, right? So avoid the word show. Instead, use a more direct synonym, right? Words like demonstrates, evince, illustrates, displays, argues, right? For instance, if you look at this example, it says the editors demonstrate how burnout is prevalent among church leaders. So it's not, so sometimes we might say the editors show how burnout is prevalent among church leaders, right? So try to avoid the word show. Instead, use a more direct synonym that sounds sophisticated, like demonstrate, the editors events, the editors illustrates how burnout is prevalent among church leaders, right? And the last one here is speed up, right? For instance, we can say the scientists speed up the research. So avoid words like speed up, right? Instead, use it also a sophisticated synonym like accelerated, hurried. So you can say the scientists accelerated the research. All right. So any questions? Sounds good. All right. So the next part is exaggerations, right? Now, so this is a kind of slang, and this is when it's kind of when we try to prove what is not, or try to prove what can't be proven, right? So you can have here, like this says, since academic writing is supposed to add to existing knowledge and open possibilities to further research, exaggerations close the door to reasonable doubts. While academic writers can be confident, they must acknowledge that their ideas and theories may be disproven, right? Or we can say that, you know, academic writers must acknowledge that there would always be more, there could, not will, there could always be more to their research, right? There could always be more findings or further findings to their research. So these are some examples of words that could assume exaggeration. So when we use the word always, right? For instance, so my professor, when I was in doing my master's, would say something like, you know, when he's in an argument with someone, right? We tend to say, or when we are in an argument with someone, we tend to say, oh, you always do this, you always do that, you always do this. But that's a lie. No one always does anything, right? So, so right, and that's just an exaggeration right there, right? So, so exaggeration here. One exaggeration is using the word always, right? So instead of using the word always in your sentences, or instead of using the word always to prove your ideas, just try to specify the amount or replace with the word frequently, right? So for instance, we have here the lab results were the same after 120 iterations, right? So instead of saying the lab results were always the same, right? So I specified an amount here, a specific amount. Lab results were the same after 120 iterations. So another example here is potential college students from public high schools always have efficient writing skills. And that may not be true, right? So it's better to use the word frequently, right? So another part here says this: transformational leadership always results in burnt out team members, right? So instead of using the word always, what I did here was to give a more specific detail, right, as to my my research. So I said results accumulated after evaluating the top 100 Forbes company demonstrates that transformational leadership leads to burnt out team members, right? So this is more specific here, right? So right here, this is more specific. Now I'm talking about 100, like an evaluation of the top 100 Forbes company, right? So I'm not saying transformational leadership always results in burnt out team members. I'm only saying that an evaluation, now I'm saying that an evaluation of the top 100 Forbes company demonstrates that transformational leadership leads to burnt out team members, right? So I'm more specific. So the whole trick here is just delete always and be more specific about your points, right? Do you have any questions? All right. So another word, another exaggeration is using the word definitely or absolutely. Almost nothing is definitely, right? And almost nothing materialistic is definitely or absolutely, right? So it says eliminate or replace with significantly, with the word significantly. So the findings absolutely provide support for the current mental health crisis. So when you use the word absolutely, it means that these findings cannot be debunked, right? Or when you use the word absolutely, it means these findings cannot be reviewed, or further research is no longer needed for these findings. So try not to use absolutely in your sentences. Instead, just say the findings provide significant support for the current mental health crisis, right? So I've added, or you can say the findings significantly provides support for the current mental health crisis, right? So now another one here is every or never, every, never. So specify the amount or add a phrase to convey reasonable doubt, such as almost or essentially, right? Not everything or not everything does things in a certain way, right? So say every Baptist church have a cessationist view of gifts of the Spirit. Every Baptist church have a cessationist view of the gift of the Spirit. But that could be proven wrong, right? So you can say research on 200 Baptist churches affiliated to the Southern Baptist Convention shows a prevalence of cessationist view of the gift of the Spirit, right? So now again, I'm more specific, right? More specific, right? Another word you should also look out for is proofs or proof, right? So instead of using the word proof, use the word supports, right? Instead of using the word proves or proof, use the word support, right? So instead of saying the evidence and finding prove the claim. No, you should say the evidence and findings supports the claim. So if you use the word prove, it means that the evidence and the finding is actually final, right? And is without, or the finding is without reasonable doubt, right? So always try to, well, basically the idea is this, right? You're trying to be humble with your research, right? That's why you try to avoid exaggerations, all right? So another type of slang is opinionated or subjective words, right? Opinionated or subjective words assume that the writer is reaching a conclusion based on personal standings rather than reason is about it's, or we say academic writing is evidence or facts based, right? You're not drawing conclusions based on your own personal opinions, but you're drawing conclusions based on researched facts, right? So try to come in. So try to avoid words like beautiful, wonderful, awful, like adjectives such as beautiful, wonderful, awful, ugly, awesome, or hideous, right? Instead, specify the quality as objectively as possible, right? So instead of saying words like the academic essay was awful, right? Instead of saying the academic essay was awful, you should say the academic essay was written in an informal format, right? So instead of saying the academic essay was awful, you should actually focus on telling your audience why the academic essay was awful without saying the academic essay was awful, right? So what you can say is the essay was written in an informal format, right? That's what makes it awful. But you don't have to state that it was awful. Just state the reason, right? So the presentation was awesome. In an academic setting, you don't write sentences like this. Try to just focus on try to focus on stating why the presentation was awesome, right? So you can say the presentation contained captivating visual charts and appealing pictures, right? So I'm going to stop here. I'm going to ask you, so can you all hear me clearly? Raise your hands if you can hear me clearly. Just want to be sure.
Yeah. You're off a little.
Thank you.
You're off a little. Where would that be in a call?
Okay.
Where the gear shifts.
Can you hear me clearly now?
Underneath 3. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yes.
So another word we should try to avoid is clearly, naturally, of course, obviously, undoubtedly, right? That's another word. Just eliminate it, right? Words like naturally, right? For instance, we can say naturally, the filmmakers would consult the writer for further directions, right? Yes, we, as humans, we have natural inclinations, right? But then when you're writing a research paper, your ideas should be based on facts, right? So avoid words like naturally that assumes that there is no, benefit of doubt, right? Just delete it, just go straight to the point. The filmmaker would consult the writer for further direction, right? And then another word we should always avoid is clearly and obviously. Like the government clearly / obviously understands the reason for the mass mental health crisis, right? So just try to avoid that word, just eliminate those words, right? Because there's a possibility that the government may not fully understand the reason for an issue, right? So
I need a glass.
Now, another word you should avoid is perfect, ideal, and best.
That's nasty.
So avoid words like perfect, ideal, and best. So instead, replace with a more specific qualifier or the word strong, key, or crucial, right? For instance, you can say the best time to prepare for a final examination is 20 days to the exam, right? It might not be the best time, right? Preparing 20 days before a final examination might not be the best time for everyone, right? So instead of using the word best, use the word crucial, right? Instead of using words like perfect, use the word crucial, or avoid words like ideal, right? You can use the word, or in fact, instead of using the word crucial, you can also use the word the effective time, right? Or the essential time to prepare for a final examination is 20 days to the exam, right? And finally, avoid words like should, right? Commanding an event, right? And so when you command an event, it means, it assumes that you're saying that your idea is without the benefit of doubt. So try to avoid the word should. So for instance, I have executive church leaders should cultivate rest times. But then instead of writing that, you can say executive leaders may experience immense creativity if they cultivate rest. So remove should and be more specific as to why executive church leaders should cultivate rest time, right? Just give us the reason, state the reason. Instead of telling them what they should do, just state why they should do it. So executive leaders may experience immense creativity if they cultivate rest. Do we have any questions? All right. So the last one is cliches, right? Slangs. The last kind of slang, we have cliches. These are overused expressions with patterns of informal expressions. So they are overused expressions, but they have patterns of informal expressions too. So these are some cliches we use. Words like stumbling block, right? Words like get through. Words like in this day and age, right? Avoid using words like in this day and age or in recent years. Words like, or phrases like at the end of the day, or when all is said and done, right? Try to avoid those kinds of. Hi, Highland. Can you kindly mute? Because I couldn't hear you.
Come on.
All right. So words like a stumbling block, right? So for a stumbling block, you can actually use a word like an obstacle or hindrance, right? So you can say the writer encountered a stumbling block that disabled further creativity, right? Instead of saying a stumbling block, you can say the writer encountered an obstacle or an hindrance, right? So another one is get through. Replace words like get through with a more specific verb, right? So you can say the researcher, so if you say the researcher had to get through multiple texts, the researcher had to get through multiple texts. No, just use a more simpler verb, right? So the researcher had to read multiple texts. So avoid words like get through. Another one is in this day and age or in recent years, right? Those are unspecific description of time. right? So instead, just specify the period or time or use presently or currently, right? So if you say in this day and age, ability to use social media is a job requirement, right? So instead of saying in this day and age, you can say in the past decade, or you can say currently, ability to use social media is a job requirement, right? And then at the end of the day, avoid words or phrases like at the end of the day or when all is said and done. So instead use words like ultimately, right? So at the end of the day, the student will graduate without understanding the benefits of college, right? But then you can say ultimately, right? Instead of at the end of the day, you can just say ultimately the students will graduate without understanding the benefits of college. So the last part of slangs we have here is fillers, right? These are informal words that do not add meaning to your sentence, but only add emotional emphasis. Fillers make your sentences wordy, right? So right here, words like literally, right? We use that a lot. So just eliminate those, right? I've seen many students use the word literally when writing an academic essay, right? So the boys were literally dancing on their tables. Just delete it, right? So just say the boys were dancing on their tables, right? So literally there does not add any meaning to your sentence. They're just fillers. They just fill up your sentence, right? Another one is serves to or helps to, right? Simply eliminate, right? You can say the gaming app serves to eliminate virtual bullying in low-income communities, right? The gaming app serves to eliminate virtual bullying in low-income communities. Just simply delete the word or the phrase serves to, and then you can just have the gaming app eliminates virtual bullying in low-income communities. Another one is the dash of dash, right? So just turn into possessive, and then I'll explain that, right? So we can have words like the leader of the church needs to communicate with the members of the church. That's just making your sentence long, right? So you can have the church leader. Instead of saying the leader of the church, you can just write the church leader needs to communicate with the church members. Instead of saying communicate with members of the church, just simply write church members, right? So, and then there are times you might start a sentence with there is / there are, it is, this is, or these are, that is, or those are, right? Try to avoid starting your sentence with what we call expletives, right? Words like, so if you write something like, there are dangers to, wow, that was a repetition there. So I was going to, okay, let's just look at the second example. So he said, it is important for drivers to wear their seat belts while driving. So avoid starting your sentences with words like, or phrases like it is, right? So instead, just go straight to the point and tell us the reason it is important, right? Drivers may incur, sorry, remove the word become there. Drivers may incur fatal injuries after accidents if they unbuckle their seatbelts while driving, right? Drivers may incur fatal injuries after accidents if they unbuckle their seatbelts while driving, right? So instead of saying it is important, so just delete it is and just focus on telling your audience why it is important, right? Instead of saying there are dangers to drunk driving, focus on stating why drunk driving is dangerous. So drunk driving leads to the danger of life loss, right? So that's it. Now we're going to the next part of our section here, which is avoiding vague qualifiers and words. So before we go on, is there any question from the previous sections about slangs and feelers? Any questions? All right. So avoiding vague qualifiers and words, right? So vague words are overused words that have lost specificity in meaning. Therefore, in academic writing, use sophisticated vocabulary that specifically illustrates your thoughts, right? There are 4 areas of vague verb usage. First one is modifier, emotional words, and verbs/nouns, right? So we'll be looking at that right here. And sorry, just 1 second. All right, can you all see my screen? If you can see my screen, can you raise your hands up?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. So vague words, right? So these are words. The first kind of vague word are modifiers. So these are words you should avoid, right, in academic writing. Instead, use more specific synonyms, right? For instance, if you use the word very, very is a vague word, right? He is very intelligent. That's vague. Use a more specific words like he is distinctly intelligent, as you can see here, right? He is very dirty, right? He's very dirty. Let's imagine we have a word like he's very dirty. So instead of using the word very in that sentence, you should use a more specific adjective or qualifier that describes your intention, right? You can say he is, awfully dirty. He is astonishingly dirty, right? He's extremely dirty, right? Or you can say he's strikingly dirty, right? She is very beautiful, right? You can say if you say she is very beautiful, you should delete the word very and use a more specific qualifier. Like she is obviously beautiful, right? She is considerably beautiful, right? So try to avoid the word very and find synonyms that work, or find synonyms that directly represent your intentions, right? So I'm going to call on someone. Maybe I'll call on, let me see, Felipe, right? Felipe
Yes.
Kaufman. So
Yes.
if I say he is broke, let me use the word broke, right? Or let me say is very intelligent. If I say that sentence to you, he's very intelligent, right? How would you revise that sentence?
He is
Astonishingly intelligent.
Exactly. Very good. Right? Veronica, do you want to help us too? Do you want to help us too? So if I say he is very ignorant, if I use the word he is very ignorant, how would you revise that statement?
He is unequivocal. How you pronounce that?
Yeah, unequivocally.
Yeah, that's the word.
Exactly. That's a very good choice too. Yes. Means unlike no other. Yeah, good. Awesome. Yeah. So another word we should avoid is a lot. A lot. Right. I make that mistake too sometimes, right? When I use the word a lot, right? He he dances a lot, right? Um, she or he complains a lot, right? So instead of using a lot, you could use the word often, oftentimes, sometimes. Although I would always, yeah, you can use sometimes, right? Frequently, generally, usually, various, bountifully, considerable, numerous, persistence, recurrent, regularly, right? So I'm going to call on Eileen Hunt. So if I say he saves his money a lot, how would you revise that sentence?
He what?
He saves his money a lot.
Okay.
Looking at all this.
He generates money or frequently. I would say frequently.
Yes, that's good. I like that. I like that. Very good. So try to that's a very good. That's a very good one. So try to avoid words like a lot. Another one you should avoid is big, right? You know, the um the management fund is big, right? Cedric, how would you revise that? The management fund is big. Looking at this.
The management fund is colossal.
Awesome. Sounds good. Excellent. Yes. Right. So what if I say taking care of a baby, right? Taking care of a baby is a big responsibility. Carol, can you help me with that?
Taking care of a baby is a enormous responsibility.
I like that. Exactly. It's an enormous responsibility. So just try to avoid those kinds of words like big, small, good, great. I know we use good and great a lot in our essays, right? So try to, for instance, if I say the essay is good, the essay is good, right? Janine, can you help me to revise that? The essay is good.
Okay. The essay is excellent.
Awesome. The essay is excellent. Awesome. Patrice, can you help me with that too? Another example. The essay is good.
Give me a minute. Essay is perfect.
Remember, we said we should avoid. I know perfect is here. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. So, the essay is satisfying.
Exactly. I like that. I like that. The essay is satisfying or even satisfactory, right? Excellent. And then avoid was like bad, right? So he is, so if for instance, if I say he is a bad driver, right? He is a bad driver. Eileen Hunt, can you help me with that? Can you help me to revise that? He is a bad driver.
Oh, there's plenty of words for that. There's careless,
Yes. Can you give me another one?
awful.
Awful. Yeah. Good. Good. He's a careless driver. That's good. So now there are emotional words too. Words like confused, right? Avoid words like confused because those are vague words. Confused, you know, scared, angry, sad, weak, strong, right? For instance, if you look at the word happy here, so if I say the professor was happy with his research, the professor was happy with his research, right? Carol, can you help me with that? Professor was happy with his research.
The professor was overjoyed with his research.
Exactly, overjoyed with his research, right? And then we have, so look at the word strong here, right? He wrote, so if I say he wrote a strong thesis statement, he wrote a strong thesis statement. Cedric, can you help me with that? He wrote a strong thesis statement.
He wrote a robust thesis statement.
That's good. Yes, he wrote a robust thesis statement. I like that. Now, the other parts here, or the last part is do, right? So vague verbs and noun, do, right? He did his assignment, right? He did his assignment. If I say he did his assignment, that sounds vague. Jernin Smith, can you help me with that? Jernin? He did his assignment. All right, Veronica, can you help me with that? He did his assignment.
He completed.
Exactly, he completed his assignment, right?
Sorry, I didn't respond to you. I was having trouble getting the mute button.
Oh, it's fine. Do you want to respond now? Yes, please, you can respond.
Okay, can you say the statement again one more time, please?
He did his assignment.
He finished his assignment.
Good. That's so good, right? Another word is fix, right? You can use fix sometimes, but another word is actually fix, right? And if you look at, so he fixed. Now let's look at this, right? He fixed his grammatical errors, right? Instead of using the word fix, what word really connects to that statement? He fixed his grammatical errors.
Correct.
I'll call on Carol. Oh, someone said something.
I'm sorry, I did.
Yeah. So, just yeah, you can go on. You can go on, Cedric. You said something, right?
He corrected.
Yeah, corrected his grammatical errors, right? And then I'll call on Down Goodman. So he fixed his car, right? He fixed, sorry, I'm not going to say that. Yeah, fix is actually a good word for that. So I can say, sorry, he fixed his schedule.
He fixed his schedule. How about he organized the schedule?
Very well. Yes, that's good. Very good. Very good. That word works so well. Exactly. And so another word here is get. Avoid the word get, right? Try to stay away from that and use more sophisticated words or words that directly connects to the intention of your sentences. So if I say he he got he got an injury, right? He got an injury. Can Paulette, can you help me with that?
I can.
Yes.
He got an injury, you're saying. He, I would say obtained, but I don't see that on there.
Yes, that's one good
Oh
one.
yeah, I do
Yes.
see it. I see it there, obtained.
Exactly. Very good. Yes. Or another sentence could be um he got his car. He got a car, right? Can someone help me? Patrice, he got a car. Oh, you're driving. You don't have to, Patrice, if you're driving.
I'm driving, so I can only listen right now.
Yes, that's fine. Yes, just
I'll help you out,
driving.
Patrice. He
Yes.
purchased a car.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes. Sorry, who helped Patrice?
Paulette.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Paulette. Yes, thank you. Yes, he purchased. I like that. I like that. So now one last part is avoid words like things and stuff, right? Stay away from those words because things is actually is unspecific, right? And stuff is also unspecific. They're actually vague, right? So so what if I say a sentence like, you must achieve a thing? You must, or if I say you must achieve something, right? So what comes to your mind, Jernin Smith? You must achieve something.
You must achieve. Is something the word that I'm looking to replace?
Yes, yes.
Okay. You must achieve purpose.
Exactly, that's good. That's something you can say. Yeah, that's a word you can say. So try as much as possible. Again, try to avoid words like things and stuff, something, anything, right? Avoid those words. And yeah. So is there anyone with a question, please? So after this session, you're also going to get this table, right? You're going to get this table. I always advise students to just print it out and paste it on your wall if you want to, right? And yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. And okay, one moment.
Oh, this is Trace. I do have a question.
Yes, please.
The first time you called on me, and I can't remember which word I used, but you said we need to stay away from those words. So I'm not sure which column that was in. You went off. I was
Oh,
trying
sorry,
to look.
I didn't hear what you.
So can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so you were on, before you changed the slide, you were on the slides where it was talking about the moderate, the different words. And when you called on me the first time, I can't remember which word I used, but then I wound up using satisfying. But then you had mentioned, because you kind of, on my end anyway, you kind of choppy. And I don't remember why you say we need to stay away from whatever word I picked up.
Oh, that was good.
Okay.
Yes. So don't use the word good. Use a more specific word that applies to your sentence or your intentions.
Okay.
Right. Awesome. Awesome. All right, so we're done with this and qualifiers, big qualifiers and words. Now the next part is avoiding contractions, right? I'm sure many of us have heard of this, and I feel like many of us here are graduate students, so don't use contractions at all. Just stay away from it, right? Yeah, so words like, contractions, this is when writers combine one word into one or two words into one. Sorry about that. So combine two words into one. For instance, can't, won't, don't, didn't. Just stay away from those and just write them in full. Cannot, will not, do not, did not, shouldn't, wouldn't, should not, would not. It's, right? It's a boy, right? Just write it in full. It is a boy, right? So, and yeah, I see a lot of students do this. Like this I apostrophe and D, I would. Here, right? So just stay away from those. I would, I have, we have, she's, is, right? I would, I have, we have, and she is. Just stay away from those, right? Don't use them at all. Sorry, Patrice, you're on mute. I think you're saying something. Patrice, you're on mute. All right. Patrice, do you want to say something? Do you have a question? Okay. So again, like I said, just stay away from those contractions, right? They don't help your professors to understand your intention, right? And again, they are also informal writing styles, right? So now, the other part, now this is the next part we should also look at, avoiding first person voice, right? Stay away from those. Except now, there are times your professor might want you to write a reflection paper or a reflective essay, right? Where you're talking about yourself. Yeah, you can write in first person voice. You can use words like I, me, us, we, are, mine, me, and my, right? You can use those kinds of pronouns, right? That's if you're writing a reflective essay. But if you're writing a research paper, you should not use the word I. Now, this is why, right? In academic writing, the first person voice in pronoun usage is unacceptable because its use assumes that ideas are written based on personal and experiential opinions and not researched facts, right? So basically, if you're using first person voice, your reader would assume that you're writing based on your own personal opinions and not facts or researched ideas, right? So just try to avoid those. Now, to fix this error, replace first person pronouns with descriptive nouns that relate to the contextual subject matter, or use a third person voice, right? In academic writing, third person voice is allowed. Feel free to use that. So the first example here, example 1, I need to practice mock quizzes before applying for my promotional exams, right? That's the first example there. Now, this is how I revised it. I canceled the I, and then I wrote a noun that describes fully the intention or the audience I'm writing to, right? So I'm saying government officials need to practice mock quizzes before applying for their promotional examination, right? So the main point here is that you should be specific as to who you are talking about. Question is, who do you mean by I? Who is I here, right? So instead of stating I, right, identify, who I, the word I represents, right? So in this case, government officials need to practice more quizzes before applying for there is a third person voice before applying for their promotional examination. Now, the second example is this: since we are prone to diabetes, we need to exercise and consume a healthy diet, right? Now, the word we here is a first person pronoun, right? Another word, the word we here is first person pronoun. So I changed that to since the elderly. So I just changed we to the particular noun that I'm talking about. Since the elderly are prone to diabetes, they, that's third person pronoun, consume a healthy diet. Right? So that's just the simple way to avoid first person voice. Just refer back to the noun you're talking about, right? And then use third person voice, right? Any questions? Any question about first person voice? All right. Again, so just try to avoid words like I, me, us, we, are, mine, me, and my, right? Just stay away from those when you are writing a research paper, right? Now, avoid second person voice. Now, previously we said we should avoid first person voice. Now I'm saying we should try to avoid second person voice, right? The second person voice is deemed unacceptable in academic research because its usage assumes that every audience's life corresponds to and agrees with the exposed ideas, right? Honestly, not everyone that reads your article would relate to your article or your writing, right? Or not everyone that reads your article would have or would or should have life experiences that corresponds to the idea in your essay, right? So just try to stay away from words like you and your, right? You and your. So you and your, those are second person pronouns. So just try to stay away from the word you and your. So this first example says, you limit originality and creativity in your organization by avoiding healthy conflicts and arguments. Right? So instead of using the word you, the way I revised it here was, I said team leaders instead of using the word you. I said team leaders limit originality and creativity in their, that's third person voice, in their organization by avoiding healthy conflicts and arguments, right? So just exchange the word you with the proper noun or the noun that represents that word you, right? So instead of saying you, I said team leaders, right? Another example here is, if you fail to intentionally care for other church members, your love for God may be questioned, right? So I'm gonna ask, just to be sure, so Dawn Goodman, so I just want to know, so can you point to the second person voice in the second example?
In the second example, it says, if you fail to intentionally care for other church members.
Yeah.
Is that the one?
Yes.
The second person would be you.
Yes. And?
Your.
Exactly. So you and your, right? So
Right.
if you want to revise this, I know I already revised it here, but you can revise it in your own words. So if you want to revise that sentence, how
Okay.
would you do that?
Okay, let's see.
Oh, sorry, it's just to add, you can be creative about it.
Okay, alrighty. Let's see. I would probably say something like failure to intentionally care for other church members would may cause God's love to be questioned.
That's good, right? But then I like what you did there, but the only issue there is that we are still missing
Reference to the person.
person.
Gotcha.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Yeah, so do you want to give it one more try?
Let's see.
Sorry, before you go on, just feel free to also look at the way I revised it,
Okay.
right? And then, be creative with it.
Let's see. Your revision says if church members fail to intentionally care for other church members, their love for God may be questioned. Okay, I see where you're going. Okay. If church members fail to intentionally care for one another, mutual love for God may be questioned.
That's good.
Okay.
Yes, that's good. Very good. Very good. Yeah, that's so good. I'll call on let me see, Felipe Kaufman. Do you want to give it a try? Without using church members, using the word church members, do you want to give it a try?
If teachers fail to intentionally care for other, do I have to have the word church members on the second part of it?
Yeah, you can change it. It's fine. It's fine. You can change it.
If teachers fail to intentionally care for students, their love for God may be questioned.
Very good. Thank you very much for that. That sounded so good. Thank you. Yes. So basically, right, the whole point here is just try to avoid the word you, right? When you're writing a research paper, you and your, right? So just use a noun, right? A noun that contextually applies to your essay, right? Use a noun to represent the word you, and then you can also use a third person pronoun to represent your, right? Like how we did here, I said, if church members fail to intentionally care for other church members, I canceled your, and then I said their love, right? That's third person. Their love for God may be questioned, right? Sounds good. So what if I say, you must, what if I say, you may, not must, you may love your enemies. You may love your enemies. So Veronica, how would you revise that? You may love your enemies. And feel free to be creative though. You may love your enemies.
Okay. Christians should love their enemies.
Very good. Christians should love their enemies. That sounds so good. So good. Yes. Very good. Very good. All right. So let's go to the next part, which is the final part. It's avoid negative sentences. Right? Avoid negative sentences. So it says using negative sentence forms always either makes the writing hard to comprehend or hides the specific authorial intentions. Right? There are 3 ways to avoid negative sentences. More so, research is more about exposing the results and conditions of what is rather than what is not. right? So basically what I'm saying here is this, right? Negative sentences are basically when you write a sentence that contains the word not and another word that um that represents a negative idea, right? Or that represents an undoing, right? For instance, a word like restrict, right? The word restrict represents the idea of limiting someone, right? Or the word restrict represents the idea of not allowing someone to move, right? So those are kinds of negative words right there. So there are three ways. So we have the avoid/no. So it's actually written in mathematical form. So avoid sentences that contains not and another word with negative prefix, right? That's the first one. Then the second one is avoid sentences with no/not with other words that have negative meanings. And then finally, avoid sentences with no and not that also contains the word unless or until, right? So let's look at examples here. So the first one, negative sentence, avoid not, avoid sentences with not/no plus words with negative prefixes, right? So we all know that there are some words that starts with the prefix miss, this, on, and ill, right? For instance, words like misconduct, right? Misunderstanding, right? Misfunding. This here could be distaste, right? On, that's another negative prefix, which could be added to, which could be added to able, like unable, right? And ill, which could be added to, legal, like illegal, or, illegitimate, right? So instead, turn the sentence into a direct positive sentence, right? So we have the first example, we experience no misunderstanding, right? So that's a double negative right there. So you have no in the sentence, and then you have another word in the sentence that starts with a negative prefix, right? We experience no misunderstanding, right? So can someone tell me what that sentence means? Anyone? Carol?
The sentence means that the person or the people understood what was going on.
Exactly. Exactly. It means that they understood, right? So if you have sentences like this, it's better for you to revise them, right? You could just say, we experienced understanding, right? Instead of saying we experienced no misunderstanding. No misunderstanding there means that there was understanding, right? So you can revise that to say we experienced understanding. Now, the second example is this: playing on the grass is not unnecessary, right? So Down Goodman, can you help me with that?
Playing on the grass is necessary.
Exactly. Playing on the grass is necessary, because if you say not unnecessary, it means that it's necessary, right? So playing on the grass is necessary. And then the final example, students, immigrants attaining a job on campus is not illegal, right? Patrice, can you help me with that?
I can't see the whole screen. I'm like, I don't know what I just hit, but I see like half of the slide, and then the other half is like the people that are in
Oh,
this writing class.
yeah.
So I can't really see what you guys are doing. I tried to spread it out, but I don't know. As you guys were talking, I was trying to get the full screen.
Yeah, so okay, I think that should be a technical problem, right? And well, sorry about that though. And but one thing, maybe next time if we meet, maybe we could always fix that for you. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to call on Janine. Can you help me with that sentence? Student immigrants attaining a job on campus is not illegal.
Okay. So student immigrant attaining a job on campus is legal.
Exactly, it's legal, right? So if you say not illegal, it means legal because that's a double negative right there. Not and illegal, right? So it means it's legal, right? Student immigrants attaining a job on campus is legal. Thank you very much, Janine. Yes. So yeah, let's go to the next part. So negative sentences. The second part is avoid no/not with other words that have a negative meaning. So this is when you use negative words that suggest an undoing, such as without, terminate, restrict, absence, and in that same sentence, you have the word no/not. So instead, delete all negatives and turn negative words into positive, right? So you can say no assignment extension is assigned in the absence of an emergency, right? So you have the word no here, and then you have another negative word, absence, right? So you can just say assignment extension, right? So what you should just do, what you should do is delete the negative word no, right? Delete the negative word no, and then turn the negative, the other negative word
No, that ain't mine. I put it on the end of
into
the
a
computer.
positive word, right? So just, again, I'm going to say this. So delete the negative word no, right? And then change the other negative word into a positive word, right? So I deleted no. So assignment extension is assigned, right? Is assigned in, sorry, please. Assignment extension is assigned in the presence, right? Instead of absent, the presence of an emergency, right? So the whole rule is this: when you have a double negative in a sentence, it means a positive, right? So just revise that sentence into a positive language. So assignment extension is assigned in the presence of an emergency. So the other one is if you terminate your lease, we cannot give you access to the gym, right? So terminate here is a negative word, right? And then cannot is also another negative word. So you can say, if you extend, right? I turn terminate into a positive word. So if you extend your lease, we will give you, right? We will give you access to the gym. So let's look at the last sentence, right? Together. And I'm going to call on someone to help me. It says, if you go to the party without me, I will not visit your parents, right? So I'll call on Felipe, right? What are the two negative words in this sentence? If you go to the party without me, I will not visit your parents.
Without me and not visit.
Exactly, without me, good, and not. So without and not. So to revise the sentence, Felipe, what should I do?
You just say, if you go to the party, well, if we go to the party, I will visit your parents.
Exactly, right? Because there was a double negative. So if you go to the party with me, right, you turn the negative into a positive. If you go to the party with me, I will, right? So you delete not, right? I will visit your parents. All right, so that's it. So now the final part here is negative sentences. Avoid no/not in a sentence that contains the word unless or until, right? So for instance, you can have a sentence that says the programmer will not enter the password unless when the company pays them. So sorry, I'm supposed to delete the word when there. So the programmers will not enter the password unless the company pays them. Right? So you can have this right here. The programmers will, I deleted the word not. The programmers will enter the password when the company pays them. So you delete the not and you delete the unless. And then you exchange unless for the word when. Right, so that's how to revise this kind of sentence. So it's instead delete no/not and replace unless/until with when. So the programmers will enter the password when the company pays them. Right. So the pastor will not agree to the missionary's request until the deacons decide. Right? Pastors. So I'm going to call on Veronica. So what should I do about this sentence?
Okay. I can just read what you have at the bottom.
Yeah, if you want to. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. The pastors will agree to the missionary's request when the deacons decide.
Right. Exactly. So what do you think I did there to revise that sentence?
You removed the negative word not.
Yes.
And until.
Yeah.
And you made the sentence, you revised it so that it's more positive, so that it's positive.
Yes. Exactly. Yes, you're close to, it's very close. One other thing I did was when I deleted the word until, right, I kept the word when, right? When. So the pastors will not agree to the missionary request until the deacons decide. So now I have the pastor will agree to the missionary's request when, right? So replace with when. Request. So I delete until and then I replace with when. So I said the pastors will agree to the missionary's request when the deacons decide. Right, so it makes your sentence more positive. So instead of telling us what is not, or instead of telling your audience what is not, you're telling your audience what is, right? Because in academic writing, you must always try to be as direct as possible. Yeah. So I think that's it. And basically we have been able to like go through each 6 key areas of word choice revision, right? As avoiding slangs, big words, contractions, first person voice, second person voice, and negative sentences, right? So do we have any questions so far?
I have a question.
Yes.
It's in writing papers, I've seen on some of the Twitter forums I'm in for graduate students. It says they say to write in the not the passive voice, but the active voice.
Yes.
So
Very
I know that's back to English class and all that, but I just wanted to highlight if you wanted to give us any input on that real fast.
okay. So basically, so are you saying your professor said you should write in passive voice?
No, active voice.
Active voice. Yes, that's very correct. So passive voice is more, I'll say, is more indirect. So if I say a sentence like, so let me just sure. Just 1 second, please.
Oh, I don't need to take any more of your time. I just if you
So
wanted to give
if I
us any
say a
input on
sentence
that.
like, oh yes, I just want to like quickly just show you.
Okay.
So basically a passive voice, right, is unspecific, right? Basically. So if I have a sentence like the car was destroyed by the consumers. Let me just use that word, right? This is passive, right? Because of the word by here. The car was destroyed by the consumer. So you have a verb in past tense, right? Followed by the word by. So that's just the key. Verb in past tense followed by the word by.
Okay, good.
Right? But then in active voice, you have the consumers destroyed, right? Destroy the car. This here is active voice. Your professor will prefer to hear this than this.
Yeah.
Right? Because first of all, it makes your sentence longer.
Yeah.
Right? And on a little bit unspecific. But then if you write in active voice, you're just very direct. The consumers destroyed the car. Instead of saying the car was destroyed by the consumers. And then in some other cases, the reason why we should avoid passive voice is because we might forget to identify the subject of this sentence, right? So we said, earlier we said by the consumers, right? Now I've seen many students that would forget, let me just say forget to state this part. And then they'll stop here. The car was destroyed, right? And then your professor will ask, who destroyed the car, right? So it's unclear who destroyed the car, right? So that's why it's always important to use active voice because it exposes the actor, right, of an event, right? We know that the consumer here or the consumers here are the actors in this sentence, right? Yes, so that's it, basically.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. All right, any final questions? Any final questions before we go? All right, thank you very much. I'm glad to have helped out today. I'm glad to have, taught you all today. And I hope that this session was, beneficial and useful. And I hope that you learned a lot in this session. And please remember, if you feel like, okay, you want to book a one-on-one section or a one-on-one session with me, right? Feel free to do that. I can always, you can always call the Ally Center, right? If you need further help with your writing, you can always feel free to reach out to the Ally Center, right? And I think our next workshop is in August. I think the 3rd or 2nd week in August, which will be talking about detailed paragraph, right? Detailed paragraph, right? And yeah, that's gonna actually be a good session. So guys, don't miss that. Yeah, don't miss that. And thank you very much for coming, and have a nice week ahead.
Yes.
You too. And
God
thank
bless
you very
everybody.
much.
Hi,
bless
thank
you.
you.
Blessing to you, brother. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.